Today was an unlucky day for Nam. He had a heated argument with his colleagues at the pressed wood factory. It started when a coworker, Mark, refused to make way while Nam was carrying finished wooden products to the transport truck. After a long argument and being provoked, Nam punched Mark directly in the face. As a result, both were sent to the administrative office to write reports. Since Nam was the aggressor, he was suspended for a week without pay as a disciplinary action. On his way home, he muttered angrily, "Damn it, don't let me see you again, or you'll regret it." Arriving home, Nam noticed Jenny sitting listlessly in front of the house, her face vacant and her eyes lost in thought. Before he even reached the yard, he heard her clear voice, which was unusual as he had returned earlier than usual. Nam asked, "Jenny, what are you doing just sitting here? You haven't even offered me water." Hearing her husband's voice, Jenny's eyes welled up. She shook her head and replied, "Where have you been, Nam? I've been calling you all afternoon, but couldn't reach you." Nam then remembered that his phone screen had cracked during the fight earlier, so he had left it at a repair shop. As he tried to think of a plausible excuse, he paused. It seemed Jenny was only asking out of habit, not real concern. Nam immediately sensed something was wrong. He quickly asked, "What's wrong, honey? Why do you look so troubled and mysterious?" "I'm pregnant." The words hit Nam like a shock. His eyes widened as if they would pop out. He and Jenny had been married for over 2 years, trying tirelessly, but with no success in having children. To hear his wife announce her pregnancy now filled him with overwhelming joy. He rushed over, grabbing her shoulders excitedly. "Oh my God, are you serious?" "Yes, but I don't want it at all." "Why wouldn't you want it?" "Look at us, Nam. We don't even have 10 million dong saved. Everything we've tried to do since we got married has resulted in losses. Now you're working as a laborer, earning a meager salary that barely lasts a month. How can we afford to raise a child? I remember that time we both had too much to drink after a wedding and we didn't use protection. Maybe we should abort this child, and when our finances are stable later, we can try again." "Are you insane? Abort it? How can you even suggest that? Do you know how long I've waited for this moment? And can you even support it if we keep it?" Jenny retorted, then slumped to the ground, covering her face and weeping. Nam was silent for a moment, regretting his harshness. But at this moment, he couldn't change their circumstances. He was burdened by hundreds of millions of dong in debt from a failed business venture during the pandemic. As Jenny continued to cry louder, fearing the neighbors would hear, Nam reached out, pulled her up, and whispered, "Come on, let's talk inside. Calm down, we're not aborting it. We've struggled so much to have a child. I wouldn't be crazy enough to get rid of it." Inside the living room, sensing the tense atmosphere, Nam hugged his wife tightly, trying to soothe her. "Calm down, I'll work harder. If things get too difficult, we can ask our parents for more help. Abandoning a child is a grave sin." Fortunately for him, after a while of comforting, Jenny stopped crying. Nam then busied himself, going out to buy roast duck, Jenny's favorite dish, to cheer her up. At the roast duck shop, Nam called out loudly, "Mrs. Kim, half a duck, plenty of sauce and innards, please." "Coming right up." Mrs. Kim, the shop owner, nodded, put down her phone, and turned on the speakerphone to continue her conversation with a friend. "Hey, Mrs. Kim, have you heard about Mr. Robert?" "Which Mr. Robert? The one who collects scrap bottles near the crossroads of the district market?" "That's the one. What happened to him?" "What happened? You should call him Mr. Robert the Millionaire. He looks like a walking skeleton, that's what he is." "Well, at my duck shop, he still owes me tens of thousands of dong for porridge. He's so unreliable, I haven't even bothered asking." "Then you should ask him. He won the lottery." "What, won the lottery?" "Yes, he won 2 top prizes, nearly 4 billion dong. It's not a small sum, you know." "Oh my God, are you serious? But don't tell anyone I told you. I don't want to be called a busybody. If it's true, then his life has completely changed." Their conversation paused as Mrs. Kim went inside to find a plastic bag for the accompanying vegetables for Nam. Nam, hearing what the 2 women had just said, was greatly surprised. He knew Mr. Robert, who used to be a good friend of his parents. But ever since his father passed away, they had rarely seen each other. Had Mr. Robert really turned his life around like that? Returning from the roast duck shop, the image of Mr. Robert couldn't leave Nam's mind. And of course, these thoughts were far from innocent. Or rather, he was hatching a plan to steal money from Mr. Robert. Because their relationship was quite good, it would be easy to approach and sneak inside. If he were to ask for money, he might only get a few tens of millions, and he would be labeled a beggar, which would be humiliating. Of course, Nam rationalized his thoughts with reasons like, "This isn't Mr. Roberts' hard-earned money anyway. It's lottery winnings, so sharing a bit with me should be fine. When my father was alive, he sometimes borrowed rice from him, didn't he?" That weekend, as the sun began to rise, Nam resolved to carry out this risky scheme. During his few days off due to the suspension, Nam would stake out a coffee shop near Mr. Roberts' house, observing his daily routine and habits. By evening, he would discreetly return home, so even Jenny didn't suspect a thing. By late afternoon today, it was the third consecutive day of his surveillance. From his corner at the coffee shop, Nam had drunk countless cups of coffee, his eyes intently fixed on Mr. Roberts' house. Despite all this time, Nam still hadn't found the ideal moment to execute his plan. It was strange, he thought, that with so much money, Mr. Robert neither boasted nor showed any signs of wealth. His old, shabby four-room house remained tucked away in the banana garden, its doors closed all day, with the only change being that he no longer collected scrap. How was Nam supposed to sneak in and steal anything like this? But then, everything changed completely in less than a few minutes. Nam heard news that someone in the village was preparing to host a wedding and would invite all their relatives. Of course, Mr. Robert was among them. Since he was a distant relative of the family and had just won the lottery, there was no reason for him to be absent. On his way home, driving his motorcycle, Nam secretly thought, "This is truly heaven sent. What does Mr. Robert need all that money for? It's best if he just passes it on to me to spend. Consider it repayment for the kindness my father showed him years ago." And so, the weekend, the crucial moment for Nam, arrived. It was a moonless, starless night, and a gloomy, silent atmosphere enveloped everything. Nam stealthily stepped out of his house. Jenny was fast asleep by now, so she certainly had no idea of her husband's movements. Nam cautiously walked for about 5 to 10 meters, then looked around once more. Every time a motorbike or someone passed by, he would pull over to the side of the road and lower his pants as if he were urinating. After walking for a while longer, Nam finally reached Mr. Roberts' house. The doors were, of course, tightly shut. The house lay silent, no lights on, everything plunged into darkness. With a slight jump, Nam was inside the yard. Tonight, a party was being held at a neighboring house, a day before the main wedding. For country folk, this was the night to get drunk. Standing in front of Mr. Roberts' house, to be extra sure, Nam raised his hand and knocked lightly on the door, calling out softly, "Mr. Robert? Mr. Robert?" Of course, no one answered. Feeling a slight unease, Nam began to feel his way along the wall to the back. Having frequently visited here before, he still remembered the layout well. Behind Mr. Roberts' kitchen was a skylight. All he had to do was skillfully avoid stepping on the pile of old tiles on the roof, and he could easily jump down through the skylight. Thanks to his memory, everything went smoothly, and in less than 3 minutes, he was inside Mr. Roberts' back room. Now, nothing could stop Nam from stealing the money. Taking a deep breath and a self-satisfied smile, he began rummaging through every nook and cranny, from the living room to Mr. Roberts' bedroom. But strangely, he found no trace of the lottery winnings, nor did it seem Mr. Robert had deposited them in a bank. This thought made Nam feel a little disappointed. However, just as he was about to leave, he unexpectedly noticed a loose brick in the corner of the bedroom. The sensation when his foot accidentally brushed against it was odd, as if there was an empty space underneath. Without hesitation, Nam bent down and used his fingertips to pry up the brick. To his surprise, beneath it was a rather large nylon bag, and what was inside felt like a dream to Nam. Dozens of stacks of money lay beneath. Oh my God, Nam was stunned beyond words. If at first he had only intended to take a few $100 million dong, now, greed completely clouded his vision. Nam, without a second thought, picked up the entire old nylon bag. But in this world, nothing is ever so perfect. Before he could even place the brick back on the floor, Nam was startled by a shuffling sound coming from outside the door. More precisely, someone was opening it. Why was Mr. Robert home so early? Everything was going wrong. While Nam was frozen like a statue, the door slowly opened. The person standing outside was none other than Mr. Robert himself. The lights flickered on, and of course, the small house offered no place for Nam to hide. Moreover, Mr. Roberts' bedroom had no door. It didn't take long for him to see the intruder inside his house, with Nam still clutching the bag of money in his hands. Mr. Robert gasped and let out a loud scream. Acting on instinct and the surge of survival, Nam gnashed his teeth and lunged, tackling Mr. Robert to the ground, intending to strangle him. But before he could complete the act, the fall caused Mr. Robert's head to hit the floor violently. His scream was accompanied by a spray of blood, startling Nam. In a panic, he recoiled backward. Mr. Robert gasped a few more times, then went silent, lying motionless. Terrified, Nam was no longer in any state to figure out what had happened. He just closed his eyes and ran out of Mr. Robert's house. Upon arriving home, he was so scared that he changed out of his blood-stained clothes and immediately stuffed the nylon bag under the bed. Nam's mind was racing with thoughts. Mr. Robert would wake up and alert everyone to hunt for the thief. He was going to be caught. Nam began to regret it. "Oh my God, Nam, what have you done?" He was so terrified that he could only sit on the bed, waiting for the worst to happen. But strangely, the entire night passed normally, without incident. At the first light of dawn, Nam got out of bed, his mind a little calmer. He carefully hid his blood-stained clothes from the previous night and tucked the bag of money deep inside an old, unused storage cabinet belonging to both him and Jenny. He thought to himself, maybe he didn't recognize me. A little later, Jenny woke up to go to the market and help at a fruit stall. Noticing her husband's strained demeanor, she asked, "Aren't you going to work this morning? Are you sick?" "No, just a little tired." "Do you need any medicine? I can go buy some." "No, you just go to the market." Just then, their conversation was interrupted by a figure running towards their house, shouting urgently, Nam, something's happened." The caller was Harry, Nam's cousin. Jenny, curious, rushed out from inside the house to listen. "Harry, what's wrong?" "Mr. Robert, he's dead." Nam, upon hearing this, was the most terrified of all. He almost collapsed to the ground but managed to compose himself. Showing any such reaction now would be tantamount to confessing. Jenny asked for details, and Harry revealed that earlier, 2 young men who had gone out for coffee had passed by Mr. Roberts' house. Seeing the slightly ajar door and knowing he had just won the lottery, they went in to investigate. To their horror, they found Mr. Robert lying sprawled on the floor, blood oozing from his nose and mouth. They immediately called the neighbors, but it was too late. He had stopped breathing, and his body was already cold. The police were now on the scene investigating. Jenny gasped loudly, "Oh my God, I just spoke to him the other day. Life is so unpredictable. Maybe it was a stroke or something." "No, they suspect a break-in," Harry added, "because the house was ransacked." Nam, at this point, stepped out and interjected a question, subtly trying to divert suspicion while glancing at Jenny. "Yes, people are busy over there, so I have to leave now. I just dropped by to let you know." After Harry left, Nam and Jenny quickly rushed to Mr. Roberts' house to find out more. On the way, Nam mentally replayed the events of the previous night. The struggle, the push, the fall that caused Mr. Roberts' head to bleed. Could the injury have been too severe, causing his death? More importantly, had he accidentally left anything suspicious or incriminating at the scene? The more Nam thought about it, the more he feared. Upon arrival, a large crowd had gathered in front of Mr. Roberts' house, with police cars and an ambulance parked up front. Soon, they carried out a stretcher covered with a white sheet. One didn't need to guess to know it was Mr. Roberts' body. Inside, Max, Mr. Roberts' son, who worked as a laborer in the district, was also present. He sat on the ground, distraught. "Oh, father." Through Max's subsequent revelations, Nam learned that Max had been completely unaware of his father's lottery win, which was why he had continued to work diligently in the district to earn money. Nam's anxiety intensified when he briefly saw some police officers heading to the kitchen area, where the skylight was the very spot he had used to sneak in last night. They stood there, pointing at something, and Nam's heart pounded uncontrollably. He thought, "Damn, will they find me?" He didn't linger any longer, fearing he wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure, and quickly urged Jenny to skip the market and sprinted back home himself. Upon reaching home, he scurried into his room, shutting the door tight. The more he stewed, the more he thought about notorious, sensational cases that the police had quickly solved, catching the culprits. Mr. Roberts' sudden appearance last night had caught him completely off guard. A short while later, Jenny returned from the market. After waiting and not seeing her husband leave the room, Jenny called out, "Honey, are you still tired? I bought some oranges for orange juice. Drink it, it has vitamins." Only after calling for the second time did Nam respond. He opened the door, his face pale and distracted. Jenny immediately asked, "What's wrong with you? You look even paler than this morning." Nam shook his head, reaching out for the orange juice. But before he could pick it up, he flinched, his lips trembling. "What is this?" His shoulder was throbbing with pain. "What's wrong, dear?" "Oh, nothing, just a bit tired." He grabbed a pain relief patch for joint pain and stuck it on his shoulder. Then he shuffled back into the room. Nam's mind was now a swirling vortex of chaotic thoughts. That afternoon, the situation seemed to worsen as the pain in his shoulder became more severe. Nam couldn't even lie still in bed. Realizing this wasn't good, he stumbled to the local clinic for help. After examining him, the doctors prescribed a bunch of medication. On his way home, whether by coincidence or some eerie design, Nam again passed by Mr. Roberts' house. Mr. Roberts' body was still at the morgue for investigation and had not yet been released to the family. And of course, Nam wouldn't dare to look inside, not for all the money in the world. "Mr. Nam?" Then a voice called out. Nam recognized it as Max's voice, Mr. Roberts' son, who found it impolite that Nam was just passing by without stopping. He pulled over his motorbike, composed himself, and pretended to turn and look at Max. "Max, has your father been brought home yet?" "Yes, he has, sir. I heard the news this morning and came by, but I was busy with work so I had to leave. What exactly happened to him, Max?" "My father was killed by a thief who broke in. At first, when people told me, I didn't believe it because my father didn't have any valuable assets to steal. But when I got home and learned he had won the lottery, I understood." "He didn't tell you about it?" "No, sir, I knew nothing. If I had known, I would have come back here to help him, and this wouldn't have happened." Max choked up, unable to speak further. "Don't be sad, my boy. Death is fated. I have to go to work now, but I'll visit him when he's laid to rest. Thank you." Leaving Mr. Roberts' house, Nam muttered to himself, "That old man was truly greedy, keeping all that money to himself and not even telling his son. He deserved to be robbed. It's just that his death was unexpected and not intentional." Back home, Jenny, knowing her husband had gone to the clinic, asked curiously about his shoulder injury. Nam shook his head, pointing to the bag of medicine on the table. "It costs 200,000 dong and all these pills. It'll probably make me feel hot and unwell." "You should still take them to get better. I'll buy some fruit and juice to help you feel better. I'm a bit tired, I'll go rest now." "Okay, I'll go cook dinner." Time quickly passed, and nearly a day had gone by. Distant drumbeats echoed, signaling Nam that Mr. Roberts' body had been brought home, and people were preparing for his funeral. Up until now, there had been no word from the police, and Max's friendly demeanor that afternoon made Nam feel a little more secure. At least for now, no one suspected him. After dinner, Nam didn't go out or watch the old TV like he had in previous days. Instead, he went straight to his room to lie down. He hadn't gotten a wink of sleep all night yesterday. Combined with his daytime fear over Mr. Roberts' situation and the effects of the painkillers prescribed by the doctor, it only took him half an hour to fall into a light snore. But no matter how vivid his imagination, Nam never would have anticipated that his greatest fear would manifest in his dream. There, he saw himself being arrested by the police. They clamped handcuffs onto his wrists. And that wasn't all. The person leading the police to arrest him was Mr. Robert himself. With a pale, blood-stained face, Mr. Robert pointed straight at Nam and said, "Give me back my money." Unable to bear the terror, Nam jolted awake. It took him a moment to realize it had all been just a dream. It was only 10 p.m. He was breathing heavily, his chest heaving. Jenny was still watching TV outside. The noise somewhat helped Nam regain his composure. But not long after, the pain and numbness in his shoulder returned. Without hesitation, Nam rolled up his sleeve to examine it, and to his dismay, his shoulder was now swollen and inflamed. He murmured, "How strange. Why does it hurt so much?" Hearing her husband's voice from outside, Jenny quickly rushed in. When she saw his arm, she was also terrified. "Oh no, what happened?" "It hurts so much?" Nam grimaced, clutching his shoulder. So Jenny hastily took him to the clinic for the second time. There, the doctors informed him that he had a dislocated bone, not arthritis, as diagnosed that morning. After they reset it, he was sent home. Upon arriving home, Nam sat listlessly on the edge of the bed, his eyes still fixed on the injury on his shoulder. What on earth is happening to me? I didn't do anything to dislocate my shoulder. Even that night at Mr. Roberts' house, I didn't slip or fall. While still bewildered, he heard his wife's voice call out, "Honey, I have a question. When are you planning to visit Mr. Roberts' funeral?" "Ah, I think you should go instead. I'm in pain, and going to those places isn't good for my joints." "Oh, okay, thank you." Another day passed. The matter of Mr. Robert had somewhat faded into the background, but Nam had a new worry: the incessant pain in his shoulder. The swelling wasn't larger, but touching it caused him such agony that he truly felt like crying. Realizing this wasn't good, Jenny arranged her work and took him to the city hospital. Nam, although he didn't want to go, was in too much pain, so he had to agree. Around 3 p.m., the couple stepped off the long-distance bus. By the time Nam and Jenny arrived at the hospital, dusk was falling. Added to that was a long wait to get a number and see a doctor. So Nam turned to Jenny and whispered, "We'll probably have to stay here tonight. Why did we come so early just to be examined? Who knows how long it'll take?" Jenny frowned, pointing to her handbag. "But Nam, we don't have enough money." "What are you talking about?" Nam pulled a wad of money from his pocket and handed it to his wife. "Is this enough?" Jenny's mouth dropped open. "Oh my God, where did you get so much money?" "Just spend it. It's my money, you know, my usual salary from the wood factory. This time, there was a lot of production, so the boss gave me a bonus. And when he heard I was going to the doctor, he gave me extra." Jenny, of course, didn't suspect a thing. She quickly took the money her husband offered. They both went out to find a guest house near the hospital. After settling in, Nam went to wash up. A little later, after showering, he stumbled towards the mirror to dry his hair. The sound of the hairdryer filled the room, but it was then that Nam looked at his reflection in the mirror. What was even more terrifying was that he wasn't alone in the bathroom. Behind Nam stood Mr. Robert, still in his horrific form from the previous night. He stretched out his hand and whispered, "Give me back my money, give me back my money." Nam felt as if he had died and come back to life. He no longer cared where he was or what he was doing. He just rushed out the door frantically. Jenny, outside, was so startled by her husband's sudden outburst that she nearly fainted. "Nam, Nam!" She could only call out a few times before his figure vanished down the guesthouse hallway. Out on the main road, Nam just ran. His face was completely pale, not knowing where he was going. At one point, he felt himself collide with something on the road, but it no longer mattered. After running for a while, Nam grew tired. He intended to duck under a nearby awning to rest. Once again, Mr. Robert appeared. This time, he was even more horrifying. The flesh on his face began to sag and melt together, creating a putrid smell that assaulted Nam's nose. He recoiled backward, tripping and falling to the ground, pushing out his hands as if to ward off the image of his tormentor. Mr. Robert moved closer, his cold, dead hand grasping Nam's throat. "Give me back my money." "No, no, let me go, let me go." Nam screamed, flailing his arms wildly. This piercing scream was what jolted him awake. Nam realized he was still in the bathtub in the bathroom. Next to him, warm water was flowing from the faucet, not the horrific Mr. Robert. When his eyes darted to the mirror, he saw only himself. "Oh my God, it was just a dream." Nam slapped his forehead. At that moment, a knocking sound came from the bedroom door. "Honey, what's wrong? Why did you scream so loudly?" "It's nothing," Nam whispered back to his wife, breathing heavily. It took Nam a considerable amount of time to be able to step out. Both his mind and body were completely drained of energy. He slumped onto the bed, his tired eyes looking at Jenny. "I'm too tired. I'm just going to sit for a bit, then I'll wake up." "Aren't you going to eat anything? You should go eat outside so you're full. You need to take care of our child." "Okay, I'll rest now. You go buy some things and I'll eat them later for a late-night snack." With that, Jenny stood up and got ready to go out. As for Nam, he lay back on the bed and quickly fell asleep. While drifting in and out of sleep, Nam was startled awake by a knock on the door. Thinking Jenny had returned from eating, he stayed sprawled on the bed and said, "Did you forget your key?" "No, I forgot. Please open the door for me." The knocking continued to echo in his head, accompanied by Jenny's voice. "Honey, open the door quickly." Nam was annoyed because his sleep had been so good, making him irritable. He intended to sit up and scold his wife. But as he went to do so, suppressing the pain, he jumped out of bed. He opened the door, ready to shout a string of words when something caught in his throat. And rightly so. The person standing outside was not Jenny, his wife, but Mr. Robert himself. It seemed he wasn't going to let Nam off the hook. "Why did it take you so long to open the door?" From Mr. Robert's throat came Jenny's voice. It was utterly terrifying. Nam collapsed to the floor and passed out. It wasn't until the next day that Nam woke up, finding himself in the emergency room, not the guest house room. Jenny was beside him, looking equally pale and frail. Realizing her husband was awake, she joyfully asked, "Nam, are you okay? You scared me so much." Nam tried to reply, but his throat was too sore to utter anything. He could only make muffled sounds. But surprisingly, along with his exhaustion, the pain in his shoulder had completely vanished. How strange is this? Nam wondered. A moment later, when he could finally speak, he whispered, "Honey, did the doctor treat my shoulder?" "No, they didn't do anything. You were brought here because you fell. The doctor hasn't even examined you. Only the nurses bandaged your head and gave you an IV." Nam was utterly confused. How could the pain disappear so quickly? He pondered. Could it be that the pain in my shoulder wasn't from an injury, but caused by Mr. Robert? Combined with the terrifying dreams and what I saw before I passed out, could he be haunting me? From childhood, he hadn't been very superstitious, but now, Nam couldn't help but add it to the list of possibilities. He suddenly remembered that a few months ago, while drinking with some young men in the village, he'd heard them mention a local shaman. This shaman was said to have great power, helping people summon spirits to meet their families and ward off evil. So, without any hesitation, as soon as he felt better, Nam was discharged from the hospital. He and Jenny immediately boarded a bus back to their hometown. Upon arrival, Nam, of course, couldn't let Jenny know about what he was doing, so he left her at home and went to find the shaman's shrine. Though called a shrine, it was quite large and impressive. Furthermore, rumor had it that the shaman had 20 to 30 disciples and assistants. Nam nervously stepped into the shrine's courtyard. Although it was no longer bustling, there were still quite a few people seeking fortune-telling, healing, or consultations on yin-yang matters. When his turn came, Nam was led into the central hall. It was quite dark inside, with only a faint red light emanating from a single, dimly lit lamp. As he wondered what to do next, a deep voice resonated, "Please sit down, young man." "Yes, master." Nam carefully lowered himself onto the cushion and hesitantly spoke. "Master, I've come today to ask for your help with something. I'm being haunted by a spirit." "Haunted? How are you being haunted?" Nam recounted his story to the master, naturally omitting the detail about stealing the money. He simply claimed he had visited the funeral and then became haunted. However, after listening, the master leaned his head back and laughed loudly. "Are you trying to deceive me?" "Oh no, master, I wouldn't dare." "Let me tell you something. If what you said were true, you wouldn't be so severely haunted. Secondly, if you're not truthful, your demise is near." Nam was stunned, his eyes almost bulging. "You don't need to be surprised. How could I, having practiced this profession for so many years, not know? And when you walked in just now, I saw you weren't alone. The vengeful spirit has been clinging to your shoulder, and that is why you have shoulder pain." "What?" Nam shrieked, raising his hand to his shoulder, trying to brush away some unseen terror. Terrified, Nam knelt on the floor and whimpered, "Master, please save me. Help me. I beg of you, master." The master was silent for a moment before speaking. "Will you tell me the truth?" I. With no other option, Nam confessed everything. The master listened, his face grimacing thoughtfully. "Oh my God, how could you do such a cruel thing? You stole money and took someone's life." "Master, it wasn't intentional. Please, master, I beg you for a different way. I'm also pregnant. If I go to prison now, what will she do?" "If you don't return the money to his family, there is another way, but I don't know if you dare to do it." "What way, master? Please tell me." "You must exhume his grave and personally return the money to him." At this, Nam's eyes widened, and his throat felt as if something was blocking it. The master quickly interjected, "Are you scared? If you're scared, why did you kill him? You must do this with your own hands." No, master, please don't scare me. Is there any other way? No, there is only this one way, and you alone can do it. If you delay, I fear for your life. Or do you want to return the money to his family and go to prison? Nam was truly caught between a rock and a hard place. After a moment's thought, he realized he truly had no other option. Nam sighed. Master, if you say so, I will obey. I will help you without any payment. I only ask that after you return the money, you actively pray, repent, and atone for your actions. Do you understand? Yes, master, I understand. After nearly an hour of performing rituals and chanting spells, the master drew a talisman for Nam and instructed him. After you exhume the grave and return the money to its owner, insert this talisman into his hand. This is like a letter of apology. Only then will you be safe. Now go, I have others to see. Yes, master. Nam received the talisman, bowed deeply to the shaman, and left. On his way home, Nam passed by Mr. Roberts' house. He had been buried more than 2 days prior. Nam heard that his altar had been sent to a pagoda because Max didn't have time to tend to the incense. Looking at the tightly closed, locked gate, Nam surmised that Max had gone back to work as a laborer in the district. He pictured the scene of exhuming the grave, muttering to himself. If he followed the master's words, he would have to exhume Mr. Roberts' grave. But how could he do such a thing? Just seeing his ghost was scary enough. What about facing a decomposing corpse? He might die of fear before he even finished. The fear grew, accompanied by Nam's hesitation. Throughout his life, from childhood to adulthood, he had never trembled before anything. Yet now, even the decision to exhume Mr. Roberts' grave or not was a difficult one. Upon returning home, Nam was immediately met with Jenny's complaints. What kind of husband are you, always out all day? You're only home when you're sick, so someone can wait on you, but when you're well, you're nowhere to be seen all day. He felt a little annoyed but didn't want to argue with his wife at this moment. He walked straight into the room, his mind filled with jumbled images. He lay down on the bed and continued to ponder. Should I give this money to Max now, pretending I caught the thief? No, who would believe me if I just said it? And if I bury all that money with Mr. Robert, who will use it? It was a pity. That money could help so many people. No more thinking, Nam told himself. He tried to sleep a little to regain his composure, then make a decision. And of course, his sleep was anything but peaceful. First, with his eyes still tightly shut, Nam felt as if someone's hand was gripping his leg. Startled, he thought Jenny was calling him to dinner, so he mumbled, "I'm not eating. Go eat, let me sleep." Nam finished his sentence, but the hand didn't stop. It shook him even harder. Annoyed, he opened his eyes, intending to scold his wife, but to his horror, the person shaking his leg was not Jenny but Mr. Robert. Nam stammered, trying to address his tormentor, but Mr. Robert showed no less of his horrifying nature. Blood gushed from his mouth, dripping down onto Nam's legs. "Give me back my money, give me back my money." Mr. Robert's voice was weak and hollow, as if echoing from some hell. Nam felt like he would rather die than endure the horror unfolding before his eyes. He screamed and kicked violently at Mr. Robert's ghost. He thought the kick would pass through, but it didn't. Nam felt himself make contact with something. Then a piercing scream erupted again. This time, Nam truly woke up, and the person he had just kicked was Jenny. Now it was her turn to scream in pain. Nam jumped up, startled, rushing off the bed to his wife. "Honey, are you okay?" Things seemed to worsen as blood began to seep from Jenny's lower body. She shrieked in pain repeatedly, and Nam felt an ominous premonition. But before he could figure out what to do, he heard a chilling laugh beside his ear. Reacting instinctively, Nam looked up, and to his horror, it was Mr. Robert again, his mouth stretched in a ghastly grin, reaching to his ears. Oh my God, he was truly inside Jenny's abdomen. The terror was not over. Of course not. Because Nam saw a hand piercing through Jenny's abdomen from the inside, reaching out and grabbing his arm. The hand was bloody and utterly terrifying, accompanied by Mr. Robert's voice. "Give me back my money, give me back my money." At this very moment, this was the absolute limit of Nam's fear. He cried out and stumbled backward. Nam woke up for the second time, his eyes darting frantically around, his arms and legs flailing. But everything that had just happened was just a dream. "Honey, what's wrong?" It was Jenny's voice from outside, but the haunting imagery in Nam's mind was still very clear. He recoiled, defensive. "Don't come in here," Jenny's sigh echoed. She mumbled something to herself and then went back outside. Alone in the dark room, Nam whispered, "This is bad. This can't be happening. I have to do it. Money can be regained, but I must save this life." And so, he finally made the decision he had agonized over all afternoon. The terrifying nightmares were nothing short of a threat. If he didn't return the money to Mr. Robert, his wife and child would be in danger. More than anything, Nam cherished the child in Jenny's womb more than his own life. This was why he had hesitated to return the money, not because he wanted to keep it for himself, but for the child. Stepping out of the room, Jenny still seemed angry and remained silent, her eyes fixed on the TV. Nam walked over, put his arm around his wife's waist from behind, and whispered, "I'm sorry. I had something to do outside today, that's why I came home late. I wasn't out playing around." "Oh, I'm not talking anymore. Go take a shower, then we can eat." After dinner, Nam clung to his wife, as if to ward off some of the fear inside him. By bedtime, only Jenny had fallen into a deep sleep. Nam himself dared not sleep, fearing Mr. Robert would appear again. The next morning, Nam began to implement the steps of his plan to return the money. First, to avoid complications, he told Jenny he had to work a night shift at the factory and wouldn't be home until tomorrow morning. Jenny, of course, didn't suspect a thing. For the rest of the day, he prepared shovels, crowbars, and a bag of incense. He also pretended to visit his relatives' graves in the field to scout the location of Mr. Robert's grave. After everything was prepared, dusk was already setting in. Nam intended to lie down and snatch a bit of sleep, but the fear of Mr. Robert's ghost made him bolt upright. "I'll just stay awake tonight then." Time passed. By past 10 p.m., Nam got up. The crucial moment had arrived. He carefully checked everything one last time before leaving the house. To be even more discreet, Nam chose Jenny's old bicycle as his mode of transport, as it didn't make noise like a motorbike. Riding towards the cemetery, he didn't turn on his flashlight but slowly crept into the deep darkness of the graveyard. It wasn't until he was almost at the end that he turned on his light to search. Mr. Robert's grave wasn't too hard to find, located right next to a small path. The trampled earth and withered flowers suggested that no one had visited him since his burial, which was understandable since he had no other relatives besides Max. This made Nam feel more confident about not being discovered. Standing before the grave, Nam muttered, "I'm here to return your money, Mr. Robert." Without further hesitation, he grabbed the shovel and began to excitedly dig. The soil was not easy to turn, and his current poor health made the task of exhuming the grave extremely difficult for Nam. After digging for a while, he had to stop to catch his breath. Finally, after more than an hour of strenuous work, Nam's shovel struck the lid of the coffin. A dull thud echoed beneath his feet, making him flinch. He whispered, but the next action seemed quite terrifying. In Nam's mind, he imagined all sorts of things. When the coffin lid was opened, Mr. Robert's body would rise up and grab him, just like in a horror movie on TV. But no matter what, he couldn't give up now. Nam looked at his watch. It was past midnight. It was getting late. And if he delayed, what if he was caught by someone patrolling at night? That would be even worse. Thus, Nam found renewed courage. He gripped his hands tightly and began using a smaller tool to pry open each nail on the coffin lid. This part was quite easy. In a flash, it was done. And the coffin used for Mr. Robert's burial was a cheap one, so it wasn't very sturdy. He paused for nearly 5 minutes to compose himself. Nam then used his trembling hand to slowly flip open the rotten lid. The thing he feared most finally appeared, Mr. Robert's body. Since he had only just been buried, it hadn't started to decompose yet. Nam clasped his hands together and whispered, "Mr. Robert, I am returning your money now. Please rest in peace and don't trouble me anymore. I know I was wrong." Nam finished his prayer, then quickly sprinkled incense ash. Fortunately, there was no reply. Otherwise, his frantically beating heart would surely burst. Next, he carefully placed the bag of money inside the coffin with Mr. Robert. After placing the money, Nam proceeded to the final step. With trembling hands, he inserted the talisman into Mr. Robert's stiff, cold hand. And so, the final step was completed. Nam felt overjoyed. He hastily refilled the grave, then stumbled back home. Returning, the money felt like a defeat, but not being bothered by Mr. Robert's ghost anymore was worth the cost. Arriving home, the clock showed 3 a.m. Nam was so exhausted he could barely breathe. He threw his tools into a corner outside the house and then clumsily went to take a bath. The bath felt wonderfully relaxing. It was true that once the pressure in his head was released, his whole body felt lighter. After his bath, he opened the bedroom door and stepped inside. Hearing the movement, Jenny furrowed her brow and stirred awake. "Oh, you're back. You're home so late." "I'm tired, honey. Let's just go to sleep. I'll work hard to take care of you and our child." "I know." With that, Nam reached out, hugged his wife, and slowly drifted into sleep. While in a daze, Nam was startled awake by knocking sounds echoing in his ears. His eyes, still closed, turned towards the door. "Jenny, is that you?" His question was answered quickly as he realized Jenny was still sleeping beside him. But if so, who was knocking outside? Fear resurfaced. Nam held his breath, straining to listen. It was indeed a knocking sound. What strange thing was happening? While he was still battling his thoughts, unsure what to do, the knocking stopped. But it wasn't over. The horror intensified multifold. The doorknob turned, and the door slowly began to open. Through the dim light of the nightlight, Nam saw it clearly. Mr. Robert was standing there, looming, his blood-soaked face staring intently at Nam. "Give me back my money." Nam felt as if his heart had stopped. He stammered, "What? I already gave you back your money. Don't torment me anymore." But Mr. Robert didn't disappear. He kept getting closer, nearing the bed where the couple lay. Nam screamed, jolting awake, his eyes wide open, darting around. Jenny also woke up at this moment, but this time she was extremely annoyed with him. "Are you crazy? I'm pregnant and not feeling well, and you keep waking me up in the middle of the night. How am I supposed to be healthy?" "I'm sorry." Nam wiped the sweat from his face and shook his head. "It's nothing. I'm going out to smoke." "Honestly, I don't understand you." Getting out of bed, Nam grabbed a pack of cigarettes and went outside. The living room was silent. He slumped down and murmured, "I'm so tired. Why do I keep having such dreams?" The combination of cigarettes and the questions and fears in his head made him utterly exhausted. Half an hour passed, and he had smoked 3 or 4 cigarettes. Nam felt his eyelids heavy, unable to keep them open any longer. So he closed his eyes, straightened his body, and drifted into sleep. He expected the terrifying image of Mr. Robert to reappear, but to his surprise, Nam slept until almost noon without any further nightmares. And what's more, he felt much healthier. Nam thought, maybe I was just too tired last night, and the haunting was just a nightmare. Now that I've returned the money, what reason would Mr. Robert have to seek me out? This thought seemed to be confirmed as the next 3 days passed without Nam seeing Mr. Robert's ghost, and his sleep was perfectly peaceful. Today, his suspension time was over, and Nam returned to the wood factory to continue working. It seemed luck was smiling upon him, as the director promoted him to a different union position with a slightly higher salary. That evening, returning home, Nam was excited, carrying some balat eggs and a portion of lemongrass chicken feet, planning to celebrate with his wife. However, when he arrived, he paused, realizing his house was completely dark with no lights on. Usually, by this time, Jenny would have turned on the lights and be waiting for him. Nam called out, "Jenny, where are you? Why is it so dark?" Receiving no reply, he parked his bike and stepped inside. It became stranger still, as he couldn't find Jenny in the living room or even the kitchen. "Jenny, are you here?" Just then, Jenny's voice came from the bedroom. Nam continued to ask, "What are you doing in there? Are you changing clothes?" "No, I'm sleeping." "Sleeping? Why are you sleeping now? Get up. Sleeping during the day isn't good." It took a while for the bedroom door to open, and Jenny appeared. But the moment Nam saw her face, he was startled. "Oh my God, what's wrong with you?" He had good reason to be alarmed. Jenny's complexion was pale, her eyes hazy and barely open. Moreover, her every step was heavy. "You're back." "Yes, I'm back. What's wrong with you?" "I don't know, my head hurts." "Let's go to the doctor, honey." "No, I'm probably just pregnant, going through the changes of the first trimester. Don't worry, I'll go cook dinner, it's getting late." "No need, go wash your face. I bought some of your favorite dishes, then go to bed early." Jenny nodded and stumbled into the bathroom. While she was washing up, Nam busied himself arranging the food onto plates. Then, suddenly, he flinched at a piercing scream. Recognizing his wife's voice, he immediately ran to stand in front of the bathroom door. Nam knocked on the door frantically, asking, "Jenny, what's wrong, Jenny?" Receiving no reply, he grew even more worried. So, with no other option, Nam kicked the door straight in. With his strength, the bathroom door burst open. What met his eyes shocked him to his core. Jenny was lying sprawled on the floor, her eyes tightly shut. Nam, in a panic, rushed outside. "Is anyone there? Help me!" Hearing his desperate shouts, a few neighbors quickly rushed over. Around 9 p.m., Nam was sitting nervously in front of the emergency room door. His face was etched with extreme worry. What was even more terrifying was that on the way to the hospital, Jenny had experienced some bleeding from her lower body. "Oh my God, if anything happens to Jenny and the baby, I won't be able to live." Just then, someone stepped out from inside, a rather elderly doctor. Nam jumped up and stammered, "Doctor, how is my wife and baby?" "She's fine, she's awake." "And my child, is the baby okay?" "Yes, just a slight shock. You need to be more careful with your wife from now on." "Yes, thank you, doctor." A little later, after Jenny was taken to her hospital room, Nam rushed in and was distraught to see her. He asked anxiously, "Honey, how are you feeling? Does anything hurt?" Contrary to his worry, Jenny looked very sullen. Noticing this change, Nam hesitantly asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" Jenny remained silent, not responding. However, after he asked a few more times, she sighed. "Nam, I'm so scared." "Scared of what? The doctor said our baby is fine." "No, I'm not scared of that, I'm scared. Tell me what happened. Did you have a nightmare?" "It wasn't a nightmare because I was tired and just had some strange dreams. No, for the past 2 or 3 nights, I've had the same dream every time I closed my eyes. I was standing in the cemetery and someone was chasing me. Do you know who it was?" "No, I saw someone. It was Mr. Robert." The name Jenny uttered made Nam recoil in fear. He stammered, "What are you saying?" "I don't know what's really happening, but I keep dreaming about him. Before I passed out in the bathroom earlier, I also saw him appear in the mirror. Oh my God, I know you won't believe me, but it's true." Nam didn't answer his wife because he believed her story. He himself had had similar dreams earlier. Trying to suppress his panic, Nam quickly reassured his wife, "Honey, just lie down and rest, don't be scared." Jenny seemed to want to say more, but she nodded in agreement, allowing herself to drift into sleep. Nam then quietly stepped out into the hallway to think. The more he thought, the more something felt wrong. If this was true, it meant that since he stopped dreaming about Mr. Robert, it wasn't because he had let him go, but because he had shifted his target to Jenny. "But I already returned the money, didn't I? Why is he still doing this? No, I have to go ask the master what to do." Despite it being past 11 p.m., with the surging questions, Nam decided to drive to the shaman's house. Upon arrival, he found the shrine locked from the outside with a large padlock. What was even stranger was that Nam noticed the plants, branches, and stepping stones in the outer garden were gone. There were no vehicles either. It looked as if the shrine had been abandoned. Where is he? Despite his questions, he couldn't break in or find a way to contact the master. Defeated, he returned to the hospital. Jenny was fast asleep now. Nam went in and sat right beside her, as if guarding her, not letting anything harm his wife. As time approached dawn, he also grew very tired, his eyelids heavy. Nam yawned widely, then slumped his head onto the bed and continued to sleep. And in this sleep, he unexpectedly witnessed Mr. Robert's return. He stood outside the hospital room door, looking at Nam, then waving his hand as if telling him to follow. Terrified, Nam was still reeling from the shock when Jenny's faint voice floated into his ear. You saw him, didn't you?" "What are you saying?" "Did you see him waving? He's standing outside the room, calling to you, calling to both of us." Now the horror had reached its peak. There was no doubt anymore. Nam knew for sure that Mr. Robert's ghost had returned, and he was even coming for his wife and the baby in her womb. Jenny gripped her husband's hand, trembling. "Nam, what's happening? Why is Mr. Robert coming for us? We have nothing to do with him." "Jenny, calm down. I'll take care of it. How will you take care of it? Don't worry, I'll handle it." As he spoke, he held his wife close in his arms. The next morning, at first light, Nam asked a nurse to keep an eye on his wife. Then he rushed back to the shaman's shrine. But just like last night, the master was nowhere to be found. "Master, master, are you home?" His cries seemed like a desperate, helpless plea. But then a figure emerged from a nearby house. "Who are you looking for?" The speaker was a rather elderly woman. Nam nodded. "Excuse me, ma'am, I'm looking for the master. Do you know where he went?" "The master? Oh, he left." "Left? Why did he leave?" "I'm not sure of the exact circumstances, but about a day or so ago, he and some of his disciples packed up their things in a great hurry. I think he might have heard the authorities were coming to shut him down, so he fled. Before that, his powers were quite profound, you know. Hearing this, Nam's face went slack with exhaustion and disbelief. Oh my God, why would the master leave now? Leaving the deserted shrine, Nam felt utterly helpless. With the master gone, who could he turn to? Perhaps I should buy some fruit and votive offerings, go to Mr. Roberts' grave, and beg him for forgiveness. This thought seemed reasonable, so he immediately ran off to do it. Nam arrived at the cemetery and found Mr. Roberts' grave. He lit incense and knelt. Mr. Robert, I have returned your money. If there is any blame, please direct it at me, not my wife and child. They are innocent. After his plea, he placed the incense sticks in a small bowl. Almost simultaneously, the incense flared up violently. And that wasn't all. In broad daylight, Nam clearly saw Mr. Robert appearing, standing directly in front of him. His entire body was covered in blood, and he whispered, "Give me back my money. Give me back my money." What are you saying? Nam summoned all his strength and retorted, I already returned your money, and I even advanced millions from my salary to cover hospital bills. Not a single dong was missing. You're being unreasonable. Give me back my money. Give me back my money. At that moment, Nam startled awake. He realized he was lying next to Mr. Roberts' grave. It was dark now, contrasting with the dream he just had. Gritting his teeth, he cursed, Damn it! If you've pushed me to this point, then I won't hold back. I'll dig up your grave and spend the money myself. We're both dead anyway, so why should you be a rich ghost? This surge of anger and resentment overwhelmed Nam's reason. He rushed back home, grabbed a shovel and crowbar, and started digging again. But in his wildest dreams, Nam could never have imagined that when Mr. Roberts' coffin lid was opened, there was no money inside at all, only the talisman he had placed in his hand. What is this? Now Nam finally understood. There was no ritual of returning money. It was just a trick by the shaman to re-steal the very money Nam had tried to return to Mr. Robert. Just then, a storm broke, dark clouds rolled in, and heavy rain poured down. Also, in the middle of that night, people saw Nam carrying a bag of tools to the police station to surrender. He confessed to all the bad things he had done and also reported the shaman. But when the police found him, the shaman was reportedly no longer sane. He was stuffing money into his mouth, chewing it and giggling maniacally, scaring everyone away. As the truth about Mr. Roberts' death was revealed, the entire village was in an uproar. Jenny, unable to bear the shock and the gossip, left for her parents' house. As for Nam, he would now face the full punishment of the law. The money found at the shaman's place was returned to Max, Mr. Roberts' son. But after some thought, Max decided not to accept it and instead donated it all to charity. For him, this money was tainted by misfortune and sin.